The actors who fooled the entire German army. It sounds impossible, almost unbelievable. How could a handful of artists, designers, sound technicians, and actors possibly deceive one of the most battle-hardened militaries in history? Yet in the spring of 1944, just months before the Allies launched Operation Overlord, that is exactly what happened. On the quiet roads of southern England, in the hedgerows of Kent, in the muddy fields of East Anglia, a strange formation appeared. An armored division that didn't exist. It was part of the secretive 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, later known simply as the Ghost Army, a unit built not to fight, but to fool. Their mission: make the Germans believe an entire assault force, tanks, half-tracks, artillery, and 30,000 men were preparing to strike at the Pas de Calais. And at the center of this deception were not seasoned frontline soldiers, but painters, illustrators, radio operators, set designers, and Hollywood-trained actors. On June 4th, 1944, as Eisenhower finalized the fate of the coming invasion, the Ghost Army prepared their greatest performance. They would bluff the Wehrmacht and help shape the success of D-Day. This is the true story of the artists who tricked the Third Reich, an operation so daring, so ingenious, that its details remain classified for more than half a century. To understand how this unit came to exist, we must go back to 1943, when the Allied leadership finally grasped the immense challenge ahead. Hitler's forces were entrenched across the French coastline. The Führer believed the upcoming Allied invasion was inevitable. He simply didn't know where. The Germans had to guard over 2,000 miles of shoreline, from the cold waters of Norway down to the warm sands of Spain. But Hitler had one
what brings
fixed
you all
belief.
here tonight?
The invasion would
Just unwinding
strike
after
at
a long
Pas de
week, you know how
Calais,
it is.
the narrowest point between France and England. The Allies exploited this obsession. Thus began Operation Fortitude, a deception campaign of staggering scale. Its purpose was simple: create the illusion that the main Allied assault would land far from Normandy, forcing the Germans to hold their armored reserves in the wrong place at the wrong time. But to make that lie believable, they needed an entire army. Tens of thousands of men, hundreds of tanks, trucks, and artillery pieces, without actually allocating those forces. General Omar Bradley proposed something radical: a specialized deception unit that combined art, illusion, engineering, radio trickery, and pure theatrics. Colonel Harry Reeder, commander of the newly formed 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, was blunt. Our job is to put on a show the Germans must believe. The unit was assembled from some of the most unlikely men ever recruited for war. Bill Blass, who would later become a world-famous fashion designer. Ellsworth Kelly, future painter and modernist. Art Kane, later a legendary photographer. Dozens of sound engineers from film studios. Set designers who once built stages for Broadway. Radio operators trained in mimicking entire networks. And actors capable of slipping into any military role on command. The 603rd Camouflage Engineers, creators of inflatable tanks, fake aircraft, dummy artillery. The 3,132nd Signal Service Company, special, masters of radio deception. The Sonic Division, using massive speakers to broadcast pre-recorded sounds of armor, convoys, and construction. The Special Effects Unit, the actors themselves, trained to wander local towns and pass as officers, mechanics, and infantrymen of imaginary divisions. This was not mere camouflage. It was theater, played in real fields, against a ruthless and relentless enemy. To convince German intelligence that General George Patton, Hitler's most feared American commander, commanded a massive invasion force preparing to strike Calais. Little did they know, what happened in the next 2 months would become one of the most brilliant deceptions in military history. By late April 1944, the fields of southeastern England were buzzing with strange activity. Near the quiet village of Hever, local farmers watched in awe as gigantic shapes rose in their meadows. What appeared to be Sherman tanks, M10 tank destroyers, and 155mm howitzers dotted the countryside. Except, most of them weighed less than 100 pounds. They were rubber inflatables, pumped full of air by teams of camouflage engineers. From a distance, especially from the lens of a Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft flying at 20,000 feet. They looked absolutely real. At Lim Airfield, inflatable P-47 Thunderbolts lined the runways. At Folkestone, fake fuel depots appeared overnight. Convoys of trucks, many of them simple wooden frames covered with canvas, rolled slowly across the roads to be photographed by German agents. The Germans bought it. Every report from aware spies indicated the same thing. A massive army group gathers in Kent under Patton. But the greatest deception was still unfolding. The 23rd Headquarters Special Effect platoons now stepped into the spotlight. Their orders were specific. Visit local English towns. Wear insignia of the fake 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG. Talk openly, but believably, about upcoming operations. Spread rumors. Drink in pubs. Complain loudly about imaginary shortages of landing craft. And behave exactly as real soldiers would before a major assault. They were in essence performing soldiers. Private Harold Dahl, one of the unit's most gifted actors, later said, "If the Germans had ever captured one of us, they'd have been horrified to learn the entire army we belonged to was made of artists and inflatable tanks." The deception was so effective that many real Allied soldiers had no idea the Ghost Army wasn't a genuine armored division. British civilians believed it. American MPs believed it. Even some officers outside the chain of command believed General Patton was headquartered in Kent because they saw the insignia, the vehicles, the tracks, and the mud. Everything looked real, but the unit needed more. German reconnaissance planes had grown more cautious. By May, cloud cover often obscured the fields. Spies were being hunted by MI5. The illusion had to be reinforced another way. Enter the 3,132nd Sonic Company. These men possessed enormous jeeps mounted with 500-pound amplifiers, capable of projecting sound for more than 15 miles. Engineers from Bell Labs and Hollywood studios had created hour-long audio tracks of tank battalions moving, trucks shifting into gear, bulldozers preparing positions, men shouting orders, chain clanking from Shermans, aircraft being serviced, and even casual conversations of soldiers in makeshift camps. On May 14th, at 2,300 hours, the first sonic operation began. From the fields near Canterbury, the night erupted with the rumble of engines and shouted commands. German listening posts across the channel intercepted the noise and reported American armored concentrations increasing in Kent, preparing for operations. The actors added their own touches. Engineers left fake tire tracks. Cooks lit dozens of fires. Logistics teams laid out hundreds of empty fuel drums. To the Luftwaffe, to German intelligence, and to the signals analysis teams in France, it all pointed to one conclusion. The Allies will land at Calais. By June 1st, 1944, just 5 days before D-Day, tension inside the Ghost Army reached a breaking point. Colonel Reeder gathered his men near the hedgerows of Gudenstone and delivered a curt message. "Gentlemen, if we fail, thousands of men on the real beaches will die." The pressure was immense. Every inflatable tank had to be positioned perfectly. Every radio operator had to mimic the traffic of divisions that didn't exist. Every actor had to play his role with conviction, because German agents in England, though rare, were still suspected to be active. That night, a Luftwaffe reconnaissance plane flew above Kent at 0210 hours. Its cameras captured dozens of tanks at Canterbury, hundreds of trucks near Maidstone, artillery emplacements at Ashford, fuel dumps at Deal, and the unmistakable pattern of a forming invasion force. The photos were rushed to Berlin. To the amazement of Allied intelligence, Hitler himself reviewed them and grew more convinced than ever. Calais. That was the invasion point. The actors had fooled the most feared army in the world, but the true test had not yet begun.